Every night for 26 years, at exactly 9 o'clock, Ray Coleman's rig pulled into whatever truck stop was closest, and he called home. Same time zone or 3 time zones off, didn't matter. 9 o'clock, his time, whatever that happened to be that night, from a payphone at first, then a flip phone that lived in the cup holder like it was bolted there. His daughter Nora had a song for it before she could even talk properly, 3 notes, DADDY's home, except he wasn't, not for another 4 days sometimes, and she sang it into the phone anyway, every single night, because to a 5-year-old, a phone call at 9 o'clock was close enough to count. Ellen used to hold the receiver up to Nora's ear at bedtime and mouth the words along with her, the two of them doing the same 3 notes back at a man 400 miles away in a gas station parking lot. He missed her 8th birthday for a load that couldn't wait, called at 9 o'clock anyway from somewhere outside Amarillo, and listened to her tell him about the cake without him, trying to sound like it hadn't mattered. He never forgave himself for that one, even though nobody in that house ever asked him to. He drove through a white oak 2 years later, 11 hours straight, gas station coffee and both hands on the wheel, to make her middle school graduation, walked in soaked and shaking with cold, and sat in the 3rd row like it was nothing, like 11 hours in a white oak was just what Tuesdays were. That's the kind of father this story is actually about. Not a lone document. Him. Ray retired at 62, 3 years after Ellen passed, tired in the particular way 26 years of a truck seat makes a person tired, knees, back, a hearing in one ear that never came all the way back after a blown speaker years earlier. He had one plan for retirement, and it wasn't complicated: be home. Be there for the rest of it, the ordinary Tuesdays, the ones the truck had always taken from him. He bought a used lawnmower he didn't need and mowed the lawn twice a week just for something to do with his hands. Nora got into her dream school the spring before he retired. A small liberal arts college out east with a name that made her whole face change when she said it out loud, the kind of school she'd had taped to her bedroom mirror since she was 14, cut out of a brochure and held up with a thumbtack that left a small hole in the wall Ray never patched. The financial aid letter arrived 2 weeks later. It covered less than half of what a year actually cost. Ray sat at the kitchen table with that letter longer than he'd sat with almost anything in his life. Nora was at a friend's house that night, no idea the letter had even come. He thought about the birthday he missed outside Amarillo. He thought about every night at 9 o'clock that had to stand in for every night he wasn't there for something bigger. And he thought, more than anything, about the look on Nora's face the day that acceptance letter came, the exact expression, the exact sound she made, the way she'd hugged him so hard he'd nearly dropped his coffee, and what his own face was going to have to do if he told her no. He didn't tell her no. He signed the paperwork at the financial aid office on a Tuesday, a woman behind the desk explaining something about interest rates while Ray nodded along, embarrassed to ask her to slow down, embarrassed that a man who'd read 1,000 freight manifests couldn't quite follow what she was saying about capitalized interest. She used the word amortization twice, and both times Ray just nodded, the same nod he used to give dispatchers reading him route changes he only half caught over a bad connection. Parent Plus loans, she called them. The federal government would lend a parent almost the entire remaining cost of a child's education, no real check on whether the parent could actually afford to pay it back. Just a credit check. Nothing about income. Nothing about age. Nothing about the fact that Ray was 62 and the interest rate on the paper in front of him was pushing 9%, nearly double what Nora's own loans carried, plus a fee taken straight off the top before the money ever reached the school. He signed it anyway. He'd have signed it 100 times, on 100 different Tuesdays, in 100 different offices with 100 different women explaining amortization to him at the same patient, unhurried pace. That's not where this story says he went wrong, and it never will. Nora never saw the statements. Ray made sure of that, the same instinct that drove him through a snowstorm at 59, kicking back in at 63, protect her from the parts that were his to carry, not hers. When tuition went up sophomore year, he didn't tell her. When he deferred a payment junior year because the numbers got tight after a slow winter, he didn't tell her that either, just quietly picked up a few driving shifts for a friend's small delivery outfit, telling Nora it was keeping busy, which wasn't exactly a lie. Interest doesn't pause just because a payment does. It kept quietly compounding on top of itself the whole time, the way interest always does when nobody's watching it, growing a little heavier every single month it sat there untouched, folding itself into the balance twice over 4 years without a single statement ever crossing Nora's desk. Nora graduated with honors, the whole family in the stands, Ray in a shirt he'd ironed twice, sitting exactly where he'd sat at her middle school graduation, 3rd row, like it was tradition now instead of accident. She sent out 60 applications that summer, in a market that had gotten harder every year since she'd started, not easier the way the brochures always seemed to promise. She got 4 interviews and 1 offer, part-time, no benefits, less than she'd have made driving for Ray's old company straight out of high school. She took it anyway, told herself it was a foot in the door, and tried not to think too hard about what 4 years of tuition had actually bought her, not yet. Ray told her retirement could wait a little longer. Just a year, he said. 2, maybe. He said it the same easy way he used to tell Eleanor Root would only take a few extra days. It had already been 3 by the time Nora came home for a weekend that October, planning to just do laundry and sleep in her old room, and found her father's boots by the door at 5 in the morning, keys in hand, a thermos already filled, headed out to cover a regional route for his old company. "I thought you retired 4 years ago," she said, still half asleep, genuinely confused before anything else. Ray didn't have a version of this conversation ready. He'd been avoiding having it ready on purpose, the way you avoid rehearsing something you're hoping you'll never actually have to say. "I did," he said. "I just needed something to cover a few things." "What things?" He could have kept it vague. 26 years of protecting her from the parts that were his to carry made vague the easier answer, the practiced one, the one his mouth already knew how to shape. Instead, for the first time in 4 years, he just told her the truth. He got the folder from his closet, for years of statements he'd never once shown her, rubber-banded together the way he used to keep old logbooks, and set it on the kitchen table between them. Nora went quiet in a way that scared him more than if she'd yelled. She sat down across from him without being asked to, pulled the folder toward herself, and did the math out loud, slower each time, like she was hoping a different answer might show up if she recalculated it enough times. Ray watched her pen move down the same column 3 separate times. The number at the bottom of the folder, after interest that had capitalized twice and a rate that never once came down in 4 years, wasn't the $60,000 Ray had actually borrowed. It was closer to $200,000. "You've been driving a truck at 66, she said, to pay off school I didn't even end up using the way I thought I would." "You used every bit of it," Ray said. "I watched you walk across that stage. Nobody's giving that back, whatever the job market decides to do about it." Neither of them said anything for a while after that. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It was just the weight of 4 years of silence finally landing on a kitchen table at the same time, and neither of them quite knowing yet what to do with their hands. They went, the following week, to see a non-profit credit counselor named Priya, because a co-worker of Nora's had used the same service after her own parents hit something similar. Priya didn't scold either of them. She'd clearly had this exact conversation with other families before, more than once. She just laid out what was actually true, plainly, the way Ray wished someone had laid it out for him at that financial aid desk years earlier. Parent Plus loans have exactly one income-based repayment option, she told them, not several, the way your loans do, Nora, income contingent repayment, and only after consolidating first. And there is no such thing, anywhere in the federal system, as a loan against a parent's retirement. You can borrow against almost anything else in this country. A house. A car. A wedding, if you really want to. Not that. Which means every dollar borrowed against it has to come from somewhere else instead, usually time. Usually the parents. This isn't a story about a bad decision, she added, looking at Ray directly, the same way a good dispatcher looks at you when the news isn't good but needs saying anyway. It's a story about a decision nobody explained the real shape of, made by a man who would have made it anyway even if they had. Those are two different problems, and only one of them is fixable today. The other one's just true, and true things don't need fixing so much as they need saying out loud, finally, to the one person who should have heard it years ago. She helped them consolidate what was left, moved Ray onto the income-based plan that actually existed, and helped Nora set up a modest, specific monthly contribution, not out of guilt, but as a plan the two of them built together, out loud, in that office, instead of one of them carrying it silently while the other one didn't even know there was weight to carry. Ray retired again that spring. For real, this time, with Nora at the table when he made the call, listening in on speaker instead of finding out for years later from a stack of boots by the door. He still calls her most nights around 9, though there's no truck stop involved anymore, no time zone to account for, just a recliner and a television he mutes the second the phone lights up. Sometimes she still hums the 3 notes before she picks up, the same ones from 20 years ago, mostly as a joke now, except neither of them entirely means it as one. He kept the folder. Not the debt, that's someone else's problem now, a manageable one, finally, split 2 ways instead of carried alone by a man too proud to say the number out loud. Just the folder itself, empty now, back in the same closet it came from. He says it reminds him of the exact shape of what love costs when nobody tells you the real math in advance, and how much lighter that same love gets the moment 2 people are finally allowed to carry it together. He'd still sign it again. Every page. He just wishes, now, that somebody had sat him down first and told him what the number actually was, not to talk him out of it. Just so he'd have known, the whole time, exactly what he was carrying, instead of finding out for years late, standing in his own kitchen at 5 in the morning.